Hey, I'm Heather and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is a place where I coach busy moms who want to grow their business with more heart and less hustle. And today we're talking about how to eliminate the shoulds in your life. How to stop shoulding yourself. That's what we're talking about. And this is something that I'm super passionate about because I have spent the last 37 years of my life living under the weight of should. I didn't have shoulds when I was a kid. None of us have shoulds when we're little kids. We just do whatever we feel like we want to do. And eventually over time, we're told this is the way that you should behave. This is what you should do. This is how your life should go. And we become indoctrinated with this should, and it ends up being this heavy weight of obligation and guilt and shame. Should is just could with shame on it. It's this sense that there is a right thing to do and a wrong thing to do. I've shared this before. As someone who's grown up with a faith background, I do believe that there is a way to live that is in line with love and truth and abundance. But I don't think that what we are being offered in this life is more powerful if we're doing what we think we should do rather than doing what we genuinely want to do. Before I dive too deep into how to get rid of the shoulds, how to stop shoulding yourself, I want to talk about the two different kinds of wants that I believe exist in our lives. The first want is the immediate, in this moment, primitive brain want. And now as a life coach, I coach a lot on how to manage your mind and talk a lot about the brain science behind the way our minds work. And one of the things that I've learned is that we have two main parts of our brain. We have our primitive brain and we have our prefrontal cortex. And there's so many other parts, but to keep it simple, we're going to talk about those two main areas. Our primitive brain wants something different than our prefrontal cortex wants, okay? So it's important for us to make this distinction before we have this conversation about how to stop shoulding yourself. Your primitive brain wants these three things. It wants to avoid pain, seek pleasure, and be as efficient as possible. And so when we talk about not just living from our want in the moment, I think it's because we know that if we're left to our own devices in the moment, what we're gonna want is chocolate and ice cream and Netflix to check out and to feel good and to not do the hard work. And we all know that if we just give in to those in the moment wants, we're not really gonna create the life that we want. And there's a whole other set of wants that is more related to our prefrontal cortex, where we can actually look at the long-term picture of our life and make decisions that are based on not just what we want in the moment, but what we want to create in our life. So for example, if you know that you want to create health in your body, you want physical health so that you have energy, so that you can run around with your kids, so that you can go surfing or snowboarding when you're 50, that is a greater want in a lot of ways than the in the moment want of ice cream and chocolate and a bag of chips. So in the moment, your primitive brain, if left to its own devices, will just be telling you it wants no pain and more pleasure. It's really easy to think that in the moment when our brain is saying it wants to eat the chocolate and not go do the workout, it's easy to slap a should on that, right? To say, I shouldn't eat this chocolate. I should go do the workout. But here is why I think that that is not serving us. When we say that we should do something, we are negating the fact that we are powerful, that we are not victims to our own primitive brain, and that we always have a choice. The most powerful thing about being a human is that we have free will. We always get to decide what we're going to think, and then from that, what we're going to do. So when we sit there and tell ourselves, I shouldn't do this or I should do that, we are believing unconsciously that we don't have a choice, and that the only way to really make the right choice is to shame ourselves into it. First of all, we're believing that our primitive brain is the truest part of who we are, rather than recognizing there is just this innate habitual thing inside of us that is on autopilot. And unless we consciously decide what we really want to create in the big picture, in the long term, if we just follow our primitive brain, we're either going to be giving in to every urge and not creating a result that we like, or we're going to be shooting ourselves into submission, shooting ourselves into getting the result that we want. I want to offer to you, though, that there's another way of doing this. And what it is to actually follow our desires and to use our prefrontal cortex to identify what those greater desires are. What are the things you really want to create in your life? Do you want deep connection with your children? Do you want to have a passionate, intimate marriage? Do you want to have a business that's growing and serving and making an impact? If those are the things that you want, then don't tell yourself in the moment that you should or shouldn't do something. Own the fact that I might feel tempted right now to disconnect from my kids and just go scroll on my phone. But what I really want, the bigger want here, is connection with my children. And because of that, I'm going to consciously choose to get down on the floor and play with them. I'm going to consciously choose not to scroll on my phone and instead to be present with them, however messy, however boring, however it feels in the moment. I'm not going to believe my primitive brain, and I'm also not going to fight it with should. I'm going to separate from my primitive brain, connect with my prefrontal cortex, and consciously decide what life I want to create. When we do this, we step into what we truly want in a powerful way. We are able to live from love rather than from shame. Because here's the thing about shame. It's a terrible motivator in the long term. Shame will work to motivate you for a little while in the moment, but it overall will lead to burnout, because when we are constantly shaming ourselves, we are judging and hating ourselves. And when we do that, we are breaking down the essence of who we are. And when we love ourselves and we are able to consciously choose things powerfully because we know it's what we really want, maybe it's not what we want in the moment, but it's what we want, it's the greater want that we have for our lives, then we're able to step into our lives not from a victim mindset, but from a powerful place of choice and of consciousness. Are you ready to stop shooting yourself? I want to challenge you this next week to go a whole week without doing something because you think it's what you should do. I want to challenge you to question that should. When it comes up, to ask yourself, is this something that I really want to do? Am I doing it from a place of love? Am I doing it from a place of desire? Or am I doing it just because it's the pressure that culture is putting on me? It's the pressure that my mother-in-law is putting on me, that my friend's opinion is putting on me, that social media is putting on me. Am I lying to myself and telling myself that I don't have a choice, that I just have this primitive brain that's always going to want what it wants in the moment, and the only way to get myself to do the other thing is to shame myself and judge myself and punish myself? Or am I going to tell myself a different story, which is that there is no should that is more powerful than me stepping up and saying, I might want to check out in the moment, but the greater want that I have is to create deep connection in my life. And so I am going to consciously choose to stay connected, to not check out, not because it's what I should do, but because it's what I want to do. It is the greater want that I have and am creating in my life. If you relate to this, please give us a thumbs up, leave a comment, share it with a friend, and let us know how these topics are impacting your life. I hope you enjoyed this, and we will see you next week.